Alright, so I need to talk to you about something that literally affected my skin for years before I figured out what was going on. I'm talking about acne, and specifically how what you're eating might be sabotaging your skin without you even realizing it. I spent so much money on creams, cleansers, and dermatologist visits, and nobody told me that my diet could be a major factor. So let's dig into the actual science here, because this isn't just about cutting out junk food. It's way more specific than that. Let me start with the big one that shocked me when I first read the research. Dairy? I know, you've probably heard this before. But hear me out, because the studies on this are actually pretty compelling. There's this massive meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology that looked at data from over 78,000 children, adolescents, and young adults. What they found was that people who consumed dairy regularly had a significantly higher prevalence of acne compared to those who didn't. We're talking about a 25% increased risk for any dairy consumption. But here's where it gets interesting. Skim milk was actually worse than whole milk. Why would skim milk be worse? Scientists think it's because the hormones in milk, particularly insulin-like growth factor 1, become more concentrated when you remove the fat. These hormones can stimulate your sebaceous glands to produce more oil, and they can also increase inflammation in your skin. There's also evidence that the proteins in milk, specifically whey and casein, trigger an insulin response that can lead to increased androgen production. Androgens are hormones that directly stimulate oil production in your skin. So when you're having that protein shake with whey powder, or you're eating Greek yogurt every morning, you might actually be triggering a cascade of hormonal responses that lead to breakouts. Now let's talk about high-glycemic foods, which is basically anything that spikes your blood sugar quickly. White bread, white rice, sugary cereals, pastries. You know, the good stuff. There was a landmark study from Australia where researchers put people on either a low glycemic load diet or a regular diet for 12 weeks. The group on the low glycemic diet saw a 50% reduction in acne lesions. 50%! That's comparable to some prescription medications. Here's what's happening in your body. When you eat high glycemic foods, your blood sugar spikes, which causes your pancreas to release insulin. High insulin levels increase the production of androgens and something called insulin-like growth factor 1, that same hormone we talked about with dairy. This creates more sebum, which is the oily substance your skin produces. More sebum means more clogged pores, and more clogged pores mean more acne. It's a direct chain reaction. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that young men who switched from a high glycemic to a low glycemic diet saw significant improvements in their acne within just 10 weeks, and their insulin sensitivity improved as well. The third food group that's problematic is omega-6 rich foods, especially when they're not balanced with omega-3s. We're talking about vegetable oils like corn oil, soybean oil, and sunflower oil, which are in pretty much everything processed. The typical Western diet has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of about 15:1, when it should be closer to 4:1 or even lower. Research published in Lipids in Health and Disease showed that this imbalanced ratio promotes inflammation throughout your entire body, including your skin. Here's the thing. Omega-6 fatty acids aren't bad in themselves, but when you have too much of them relative to omega-3s, they produce pro-inflammatory compounds called eicosanoids. Your skin responds to this systemic inflammation by producing more sebum and becoming more reactive. There was a study that supplemented people's diets with omega-3 fatty acids for 10 weeks, and they saw a significant reduction in inflammatory acne lesions. The control group that didn't get the supplementation, their acne stayed the same or got worse. Now here's one that might surprise you. Chocolate. And I'm not just talking about milk chocolate, although that's definitely worse because of the dairy and sugar content. There's been some controversy about chocolate and acne for years, but more recent studies are pretty clear. A study in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology gave young men 100% pure cocoa and tracked their acne over 4 weeks. Their acne got significantly worse. Another study found that the amount of acne worsening correlated directly with the amount of chocolate consumed. Scientists aren't entirely sure why pure chocolate triggers acne, but the leading theory involves compounds in cocoa that affect your immune system and might increase inflammation in people who are already prone to acne. Some researchers think it might be related to how chocolate affects sebum production. What we do know is that milk chocolate is a double whammy because you're getting the cocos, plus the high sugar content, plus the dairy. which is basically hitting all the acne triggers at once. The fifth food category is actually whey protein, which deserves its own mention separate from dairy, because so many people are using protein powders without realizing the skin consequences. There's research from Harvard that tracked male high school students who were using protein supplements. The ones using whey protein specifically had significantly higher rates of acne compared to those who didn't use supplements at all. We're talking about a 78% increased likelihood of developing acne. Whey protein causes a massive spike in insulin and insulin-like growth factor 1, even more than drinking milk does because it's concentrated. Bodybuilders and athletes who supplement with whey often report acne on their face, back, and chest. There's a condition informally called protein powder acne that dermatologists see regularly. The interesting thing is that when people switch from whey to plant-based protein powders, many of them see their acne clear up within weeks. Let me give you some context here. A study published in Nutrients followed 24,000 adults and found that diet explained about 54% of the variation in acne severity among participants. That's huge. That means more than half of what's determining whether you break out or not could be related to what you're eating. The same study found that people who ate a Western-style diet high in dairy, refined carbohydrates, and unhealthy fats had significantly worse acne compared to those eating more whole foods, vegetables, and fish. Now, I want to be clear about something. This doesn't mean these foods cause acne in everyone. Some people can eat pizza and ice cream every day and have perfect skin. That's genetics and individual biology. But if you're someone who struggles with acne, especially if you've tried topical treatments and they're not working, there's solid evidence that these foods could be making things worse for you specifically. The mechanism behind all of this basically comes down to three things: inflammation, hormones, and insulin. These 5 food categories all trigger one or more of these pathways. They increase inflammation in your body, they mess with your hormone levels, and they spike your insulin. Your skin is responding to what's happening internally. Those pimples aren't random. They're your body telling you something's off balance. So what do you do with this information? You don't have to eliminate everything at once, but maybe try cutting out one category for 3 or 4 weeks and see what happens. A lot of people start with dairy because the evidence there is strongest. Keep a food journal and track your breakouts. You might find patterns you never noticed before. The science is pretty clear that for people prone to acne, these dietary changes can be as effective as many topical treatments. And they're addressing the root cause instead of just treating the symptoms. Your skin is literally showing you what's happening inside your body. Maybe it's time to listen to it.